Hey, so I had a lot of questions from people who were curious about, I guess, the different facets um, of my case after the clip I uploaded in relation to the people for morals. Especially, I'll try to go through all of them, but especially how it works with the solicitor who was involved, who helped the people to get rid of their assets to defraud the estate, at least in my opinion only. This person hasn't had a day in court, so I guess I'm not saying anything as a statement of fact, but only my opinion. But some of the worst parts of this is like individual moments, and I thought it was really important to just highlight again, as a victim, what it's like going through this process. So I just wanted to touch on the experience I had. I don't recommend this person at all, and that's not because I disagree with them representing someone who did something wrong to me. I understand that everyone is entitled to a lawyer, and as lawyers, you have to represent people no matter what they've done, and you have to do it to the same standard. You have to be blind to what they do and represent them as if they were someone you cared about, maybe even how you would want to be represented to the fullest extent of the law. And everyone deserves a good defense. Even if you're 100% guilty, you deserve for that accusation to be fully proven and to have the best possible advice. So I always wanted to be a solicitor. I used to work in a law firm, and I was going to law school at one point. So it's something I hold in high esteem, and I know personally, like, I've had to work on files that either touched up on domestic abuse, child abuse, a case that had to do with property that was being sold for someone who'd been convicted of making and sharing child pictures, we'll say. So completely understand that ethical part where you have to do it anyway. So please believe me that when I say that this person doesn't deserve to be a lawyer, I'm not saying it again because I'm upset at them representing someone. I'm saying that because personally and professionally, this person is completely without morals. I mean, you can represent someone without belittling and humiliating and just making fun of a victim of child sexual abuse. There was a situation where we were in court, and I was appearing before a judge on my own. A lot of this I've had to do on my own, and at one point I got emotional. So it makes me emotional now even thinking about it, because that's how horrible this treatment's been. I got emotional, and you have to just try and stiffen up that lip and push through. And then I personally heard him speaking on the phone with the girlfriend of this guy who abused me. She was the one who's actually transferred all this property in breach of these court orders. So she's the one who's defrauded the estate, in presumably in cahoots, but she's the one who financially benefited from this. She's got a free house out of it. So she's got $500,000 worth of stuff for visiting someone in prison for 3 years. So she's done well out of it. To hear them making fun of you on the phone, he was saying, because they were on a Zoom call, so they weren't in the courthouse. So he's gone into a room outside the courthouse to speak to his clients. And this is after being really horrible to me in the courtroom anyway. Over and above just defending your client, just being horrible and demeaning and just a real POS for no other reason than I think he just enjoys belittling women. I think he gets a kick out of this himself. But, yeah, having a good laugh about, didn't she get put to the test and he didn't like that. I'm sorry, but where is your sense of humanity? I mean, what if this was your children? I mean, I don't know if this guy has children. His name's Con Nottas. He works at Hutchinson Legal. I think he's the director there. Imagine this was a 5, 6, 7-year-old child that you cared about. Would you want someone humiliating them for no reason and then laughing at making them cry? I'm not someone who cries easy. It sounds ridiculous given I've now cried twice. But as I said, it's not remembering, I guess, what happened to me. That's not what makes me upset. It's the frustration of how I've been treated in this process, just trying to stand up for not even myself, because there's no benefit for me pursuing this. I'm pursuing this for all the women and children and survivors of sexual abuse who have to go through this after me. And to have, as I say, a solicitor who's appointed by the Supreme Court of our state, it's a real formal process and something I just was absolutely mesmerised by when I was a young person and wanting to do something, and really found the tenets of justice to be something I strived for. To have someone with that honour not live to that standard, and to do so on the basis of someone who enjoys abusing children in the way that this person does. Like, what makes him think that to disregard his professional obligations that he has to the state of Victoria, the people of Victoria, and to the Law Institute of Victoria? That's the state in which I reside. And so when you become a lawyer in Victoria, you get admitted to the role by the Supreme Court of Victoria. So in each state it's slightly different, but it's usually the Supreme Court admits you as a lawyer, admits you to practice, and you can be taken off that role for unprofessional, unbecoming practice, and that's something I'll potentially pursue. But to do that for someone who's they're not a relation, I suspect the reason why, well, I think there's many reasons why he's conducting himself the way he does. The first was obviously he had a financial interest in this case. The second is, I really do think this man has a vendetta against women. The sort of treatment I've had from him is like, how dare you waste my time with your nonsense complaint, which, read into that what you will, but I think this guy just really thinks it's galling that I should take up people's time wanting someone who abuses children to be held accountable for that abuse. Like I'm being ridiculous. And because he's ordained to deal with it, he's taking it upon himself to personally punish me by being so disrespectful and so unapologetically rude and demeaning to me. I've not once appeared in court where he has not been reprimanded by the judge that he needs to stop what he's doing, he needs to conduct himself more professionally, and if he wants to pursue something, he needs to do that professionally. Now I've been told by a judge before, now is not the time, you need to, now's not, you have to stop speaking, or if you want to do that, you need to file this motion. That's one thing. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm a lot younger, and I'm just one person, so you would expect that. But for a professional to be constantly reminded of their role in this process, it just goes to show that they have no scruples about them. And if this is the way he acts for someone as reprehensible as this guy, who's without question in the wrong. I mean, he raped and abused multiple children, evaded justice by cutting quick and dirty deals, then illegally got rid of all of his assets to avoid having to pay a civil judgment, and then lied under oath. I mean, this person has suborned perjury. That's certainly my allegation. That's certainly something I intend on pursuing, that has witnessed affidavits of someone that he knows to be untrue. Can I prove it? We'll see. But why? Why would you do this? Now, he's not related to them, and I've not had any other dealings with him. So what could it possibly be? He's personally invested himself in this case, in seeing that I am made to feel as uncomfortable at every moment in time, and to be treated with such disrespect as possible. It can only be that he disagrees with what I'm doing, which is pursuing justice. I've had other lawyers involved, who've cross-examined me, or have had to go up against me, representing the interests of another party in this matter, and they will do that intensely, but they're not unprofessional. They're not trying to embarrass you or make you feel ashamed of yourself, or to bring you down, or speaking to you poorly and calling you names, or lying about you. They're upholding their client's position under the law, as one would expect, and that's not what this guy's doing. So if anyone has any need of a lawyer or solicitor in the Ringwood Croydon area, I wouldn't recommend Hutchinson Legal. Certainly wouldn't recommend Con Nottas. This is the guy who used to work at the government department that deals with businesses, bankruptcies, bankrupt estates, and things like that, and left to go into practice for himself. So, and now, gives his work to these Warrels people. So, what collusion is there? Who knows? It's not something we'll ever know. Certainly, he gave them the file because he believed that his client would get a more advantageous position by doing so. If he didn't think it would make a difference, he'd just let it go to whoever. You only refer people who you think will have some benefit to you, whether that is financial or strategic. So anyway, I'll leave that one at that. But as I say, I'm just really disappointed, I guess, as not only a victim, because I was the victim of the crime, or one of the victims of a crime in this case, but as a person, who at least used to live in Victoria, or Australia as a whole is more or less the same. We trust that, or we're required to trust that the system will work. We can't go out and get our own justice, and we can't go up and shoot someone or lynch someone because they wronged us. We have to make a complaint to the police, who will deal with the actual fallout of the crime and punishing the offender. And if we have some loss or damage, we have to sue them civilly to be compensated for that. They're the two avenues of the law we have: criminal and civil. Neither of them have worked in this case, and they haven't done so because of this guy who just clearly will bend and warp and break the law as and when it suits him. So, as I said, lied directly to a judge's face about the contents of a document. The judge took it into their chambers. It's something that will come out. But has pursued all sorts of dodgy, nefarious tangents. And as I said, if I were you, I wouldn't go near this guy, because if that's what he'll do for someone who I assume is just a client to him, what will he do if you upset him? What will happen if you get on his bad side? Likely not too dissimilar to what happened to me. So that's that part. I'll at some point try get to the larger story, but that might just have to wait for another day. So 0 out of 10. Con Nottas, Hutchinson Legal. Bye guys.